issues.
Wow.
Now, could all the fear-mongering over democracy dying tomorrow backfire on the Democrats? Former Obama advisor Van Jones is ripping his own party for wasting precious time trying to stoke voter fears instead of focusing on what people care about.
I think there was this kind of fool's gold, this idea that the threat to democracy is so severe in the wake of this insurrection, in the wake of these election deniers possibly grabbing control of the government, that was something that you had to talk about. But you also had to talk about the economy. I think the tragedy here is that the Democrats have something to say on the economy. We didn't focus enough firepower on that issue, and I think it's going to potentially cost us.
And another Dem strategist is tearing into Joe Biden for accusing voters of aligning with fascists.
Voters have told us all year what they care about, and I think we have focused on other things. And I think the president's closing message last night about democracy is on the ballot again is frustrating to people like me who, don't want to see half the voters in America alienated or saying we're being accused of aligning with fascists because they're voting for their pocketbook. That's just not where we want to be.
But you get what you deserve, Democrats. You succeeded in boosting right-wing candidates in 6 of the 13 Republican primaries that you meddled in. And as the New York Post points out, MAGA Republicans who, quote, threaten democracy may have Dems to thank for their wins on Tuesday. Not a very smart move, huh, Harold?
Well, look, I think as we get towards the autopsy here of this race, and I'm going to let the votes come in.
Oh, this is a homicide now.
No. As we understand what happened, and every 2 or 4 years, Judge, this stuff happens. 2 years ago, in 2018, President Trump's first term, Democrats won a majority. And in 2020, Democrats won the presidency, and here we are now 2 years later. What I think is most refreshing about it is that voters are speaking, and they're speaking more quickly. You think before 1994, when Newt Gingrich won the House for Republicans in the Revolution there, 40 years Democrats had been in control of the House. You think since 94, in 2006, Democrats flip it, 2010, Republicans flip it, 2018, Democrats flip it again, and maybe tonight. That's 4 times in less than 30 years that we've seen, less than 28 years that we've seen this happen. So I find that refreshing in many ways. Again, I hope both parties take the right lessons from tonight. I'm not ready to go as far as you have in saying that we're going to lose so badly, but the momentum seems to be headed that way. And if we lose, Judge, I'll be the first one here to say you were right and be the first to say to both parties, let's figure out how we solve some problems, because that's what voters want politicians to do.
What voters want was the problems to be solved before the election, which is why I think, Brian, that we're going to see what we're going to see tonight. The truth is that, you had an administration that was tone deaf to what Americans were concerned about. We've got double-digit inflation in a lot of parts of this country. People who can't afford to both eat and drive and get medicine. Why weren't they listening?
So there's certain things that Democrats will say, and the party out of power will say, listen, you get hit by Hurricane Ian, don't blame me, your house got wrecked. I had nothing to do with it. I understand that's a natural disaster. But I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I was stunned to see Joe Biden said what he said on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm going to destroy the coal industry,
Yep.
and I'm stopping all drilling. So all of a sudden, I'm filling up my car, and I'm seeing my utility bill double, and the guy that's really responsible that did nothing but make it worse just told me he's been lying for the last 3 months when he blamed the Saudis,
Yep.
when he blamed Vladimir Putin, when he blamed these selfish, profit-oriented CEOs of oil and gas companies. So, yeah, we were coming out of pandemic. I understand it. Yes, we have certain headwinds. We get it, supply chain. But you don't have to make it worse. You can make it better. And the reason why he did pass things, we didn't celebrate him, because I think, Harold, and I don't know how you feel about this, because it's not your agenda, I think he did things for the Democratic agenda. He didn't really do things for the American people. That's why he can't high-five and brag about it.
He did it for the far left, not the Democratic agenda. The far left is...
That's what I'm saying. It's really not your agenda.
Okay, Jesse, why do you think the Democrats are saying that democracy will die if they're not in power? I mean, aren't they the ones who don't think America's all that great to begin with?
Yeah, it is true. Jesse Jr. actually woke me up at 5 a.m. and he said, Dad, when we destroy democracy, what comes next? And I said,
what'd you tell him?
I said, Jesse Jr.?
I said, Jesse Jr., well, what are you hearing? He said, well, the election deniers in my play group are considering kleptocracy.
Is this your children's book?
Absolute monarchy, oligarchy. And I said, think about it when we said we were going to repeal and replace Obamacare. We're going to repeal it, and we're going to replace it with something great. We just don't know what that is yet.
You haven't repealed it either.
Kid's a smart kid. That's exactly what he said. But the Democrats came up with this phrase, election denier, that people only say on social media. They only say it on CNN. They only say it in the Beltway. 95% of the country does not know what the phrase election denier means.
Yep.
So they're running an election based on not the future, not the present, but on the past. Because a couple Republicans say there were some shenanigans 2 years ago. A couple Republicans have a grudge about what happened 2 years ago. Republicans thought they got robbed 2 years ago, but people are actually getting robbed now. And they're not talking about actual robberies, people losing their money, people losing their lives. They're talking about Republicans who felt robbed 2 years ago.
Are you still talking to Jesse Jr.?
Yeah.
You broke it.
At 5 a.m., Brian.
You know, Dana, speaking of election deniers, I mean, Stacey Abrams, she now is already building up a defense for her next argument, a justification that apparently African-American men are being fed misinformation, which will then justify her saying, you know, oh, we have that sound. Let's take a listen.
We know that Black voters are often discounted. And unfortunately, this year, Black men have been a very targeted population for misinformation, not misinformation about what they want, but about why they want what they deserve. And my campaign has been the only one that has very intentionally, thoughtfully, and consistently reached out.
Okay, so in addition to her defending her next argument that she lost because of X, Y, or Z, isn't she kind of trashing African-American men as being incapable of differentiating between the truth and mistruths?
Yeah, I think, well, the interesting is that she saw the writing was on the wall for a while. And part of that is because she's not giving the Republican Party credit. And they deserve some, which is they knew that they needed to do something to reach out to minority voters, Latinos, Hispanics, Asians, you name it. And if you look at the House recruitments in particular, that rainbow is all there, and that's because there was a concerted effort to reach out to them. The other thing is President Trump did better with Black men. Now, he didn't win them all, obviously, but he started to do better. Why? Well, look, all of them have to drive to work, right? Maybe they're paying the diesel prices. All of them are trying to figure out a way to make ends meet. They get that, so they're making decisions based on their own pocketbook issues and their livelihoods. She had problems. This is going back 3 months ago, so she knew that that was coming. I don't know why the Democrats don't listen to Van Jones. Every single election, he calls it, and nobody listens to him. I don't know why. I just also want to point out, on the Fox News voter analysis that's coming in on the right-hand side of your screen, some of the questions are very interesting about the role of government, how should it do more or less, but the numbers for President Biden and his leadership, they're really bad.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that tonight. That'll be a part of the story.
Definitely.
There's the one black guy here. If Democrats had just said no cashless bail, fire weak prosecutors, put people on the border to secure it, and we're going to have an all-the-above energy strategy,
Would have been a different election.
This appeals to everybody.
But they
to your
don't
point,
believe in
you could have
any
told
of
Jesse
that.
Jr. that, and we'd be having a different
That's
conversation.
right. That's right. But they
But
didn't
does
say
Biden
it, did
believe
they?
in any of that?
All right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.